Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. We've got quarterfinals, NBA in-season tournament Monday, player props here in this video. We also have a best bets video up, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Check out the best bets each and every weekday alongside these player props. Not a great night on Friday for the best bets, but we did stay above 500, make a little bit of cash on those player props, which are the bread and butter. So we will look to continue to stay strong in these. Also want you to head to thelines.com while you're checking all this stuff out. Make sure that you use the prop finder tool we have up there. Make sure you're getting the best juice for all of these NBA player props that you are making this season. Nate, let's go ahead and get into your first player prop from one of these two games. We're definitely looking at Drew Holiday. I also was looking at him, but talk to me about where you're going with Drew.
Oh, nice. Great minds there thinking. I don't want to take necessarily the star scorers for the Celtics at 25 and 30 points for Tatum Brown. I want to take Drew Holiday for 14 and a half points. There should be scoring all around when you talk about a Pacers game with a 242 and climbing total. But I like Drew's matchup to just get some easy buckets. Like, he doesn't force anything from the perimeter with this team. He doesn't have to. He's concentrating on defense, but the Pacers, who is a team that he's had a lot of success with when he was with the Bucks, because they're small in the backcourt. They have a lot of skinny, small shooting guards. Now they have Bruce Brown, but Brown's going to be on Jaylen Brown or Tatum or someone bigger because the Pacers need that kind of size on the wing. And Drew's going to be able to take Halliburton, Nembhard, whoever, down low. And just no resistance from the Pacers. They give up the most paint points, the highest field goal percentage, the most free throws, third most points to shooting guards. And that's even spiked lately in their last 15. They're giving up 25 and a half a game to shooting guards. Reason I didn't add the assists, even though Drew has been a seamless kind of fit in the starting five, is the Pacers limit assists, possibly because they foul so much. So I would combine it with the rebounds if you are looking to get something else in here. But yeah, with Drew, he had 15 in just 25 minutes when they blew out Indy without Halliburton earlier this season. He had 51, 8 and 8 in his last trip to Indy with Milwaukee. That was with Giannis, Middleton, everyone out for the Bucks. So he had a 48% usage. But his, overall, his last five against Indy, 28 a game, and the other four were normal usage, like 22%. He now has a 19% usage rate on the road with Boston. Much lower efficiency than at home. I think that's small sample size. And, part of it is just matchup. And this matchup is good to get a high field goal percentage. Again, he's shooting 63% on those 28 points per game against these Pacers with a 142 offensive rating. So the matchup is pretty easy for him to just bully his way to the paint.
Yeah, no question there. Terrible timing on the coffee sip. Apologies. But Drew Holiday over 14 and a half points is good. I'm not. It's so weird. The books know. I don't know. Maybe they know me. They know bettors. I really want to take so many different assist props in this game for the Celtics because they're so low because of what you said. The Pacers, you would just think hemorrhage assists and allow them, but they don't. And in part, it's because their one-on-one defense isn't really good on any part of the floor. Even when Miles Turner was being considered for a Defensive Player of the Year award, those blocks weren't like one-on-one, my man's posting me up and I get the better of him blocks. They are help blocks because they're not very good at one-on-one defense. And in fact, they're one of the worst teams in the league when it comes to half-court defense and the like. So Drew is a great bet as a great half-court player who's just going to have an advantage with whomever's guarding him. I agree with that. Bruce Brown, they can't afford to leave him on Drew Holiday, which is partly why Drew's so dangerous on this team. It's always going to be, there's three other dudes we have to guard, maybe four sometimes. Not sure we can afford to put the best defender on Drew Holiday. So I think that's another good bet. I was looking at Derek White. If I was going to go assists in this game, I would lean towards Derek White being the one to get a few more dimes than Drew Holiday. And they have the same assist prop, I'm pretty sure, both at about 4.5. And that does feel high. So I'm not going to necessarily attack that either. But I support the Drew Holiday bet for sure. I'm going to stick in this game and on this team. I think we're both just going Celtics and Pellies is where we feel comfortable. But the Al Horford bet here, 18 and a half points and rebounds for Papa Al. Big fan of, this show is a huge fan of Papa Al Horford, obviously. And now we get him in a situation where they have to use him. We've seen in the early part of the season, the Celtics are very happy to save their 38-year-old power forward center, and keep him a little bit more on ice until they get to the playoffs with a younger Kristaps Porzingis. more than handling his share of stats and contribution from the center position. But in the 4 games without Kristaps, who do they turn to? Papa Al Horford. In those 4 games, he goes up from 25 minutes a game to 31. He goes up from 4.7 boards to 9.5 boards, including a couple double-digit rebounding games in there. And then he's got 14 points a game, better than the 6, not even 6 per game that he's putting up when Kristaps is in there in those 25 minutes. So he's gone over this number in all 4. And I think what's really telling is 3 of those 4 games that he played without Kristaps were against slower teams. Philly was playing a bit faster. And in one of those games, Philly didn't have Joel, so they did play faster. But in the one with Joel, what happened in this series always happens between the Celtics and 76ers. They went under, and Al Horford's a huge reason for that. Still got his points and rebounds. Got it against Chicago as well, another gross, fast, choppy team. And then just dominated Atlanta, really, and got well over this against the team that plays a lot more like the Pacers in the Hawks. So the 16.3 rebound chances in the last 3 games, those are all without KP. There's going to be more rebounding chances in a game that's going to have more shots and a faster pace than the other 3 that he played as well. And Indiana's allowing the most points per game to centers. The 10.5 points alone feels fine. I do like the fact that he's gotten so many big rebounding games that it might help us in the event that he's only able to score like 8 or 9 points, because I do have him right around 10 or 11. It's like that's a pretty fair line, but adding the rebounds in there, and he continues to climb over this. The usage rate and the rebound chances are just there for him in these situations. So I'm going to go with Papa Al over 18.5.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that he was able to get 20 against Philly and only hit 2 threes. Like, in general, he had kind of been drifting around the perimeter. I guess when the Celtics are at full strength, to give Porzingis that spacing to drive and slash. But he was able to mix it up down low. And yeah, you said in the playoffs, they're saving him. This is basically a playoff situation. You'll have 2 days of rest after this if you win before the semifinals. So I think this is prime time to just take Al. To bully a team that, again, we mentioned is just giving up the easiest buckets down low possible and then just running back the other way, trying to tire out the vet. So yeah, let's look at the Western Conference game here. CJ McCollum over 17.5 points, please. Again, in a playoff environment, he has 18 plus points in 17 straight playoff games. Does the Wiley vet? He is a big game player. They sat him on the second half of a back-to-back after he came back from the injury from the collapsed lung. There's no indication that he's going to be limited, even though he only played 28 minutes in the first half of the back-to-back. I think they were just trying to get his wind back under him. He's off the injury report entirely, so I wouldn't be too concerned here. He did play 38 minutes in his very first one back right now, averaging 19.5 in those 2 games, consistently scoring, and interestingly, had a 26% usage in those 2 games, because you saw, as you might expect, lower usage when he plays with Zion versus without in general over the last couple seasons. But he's still averaging 19 or a shade over with Zion over the last 2 seasons versus 22 without him. Home road, it's the same thing. Steady veteran, 21.5 points per game. He hasn't scored much against Sacramento lately, but in his last 4 with the Pellies, 28% usage. So they're trying to go to him. I don't think there's anything to indicate the Kings have played excellent defense on him. They are, in general, pretty vulnerable against shooting guards. I think he just missed some makeable shots. The Kings are overall 22nd in defensive rating at home, allow the 6th highest 2-point percentage and effective field goal percentage. So for CJ to get some points here, I think that's what he does. I mean, especially when you pair him with like Dyson Daniels or Jose Alvarado, it's you got it, and Herb Jones out there. You know who's going to be creating out of the backcourt. It's CJ.
Yeah, it is. Herb's getting better. He's getting better on offense. He's going to be an all-star. It's my prediction, but he's not quite there for like a 4th banana even on offense. Like you said, Trey Murphy would be the guy, but even if he does play, which I believe he is playing, but even if he does, it's still like he hasn't played this season yet. CJ's still going to be the 3rd dude and will have the ball in his hand. It's interesting. I would love to try to find an under in either of these games, and just good luck. Like that seems like fool's gold to try to go ahead and get cute with unders in either of these 2 games where the matchups are as they are. So finishing off the prop last over here for us, Zion over 24.5 points. It's a chalky day, man. I don't know what to tell you. It's chalk today, and I whenever I take a Zion points prop, I feel chalky, but it's the matchup. It's you got to find your spots with him too, because you know that he isn't a dude that always plays 38-ish minutes, right? Like he's still going to get like a 30 to 35 max sort of time limit out there. But in this one, like he's gone over already. We know that. Like the last 3 that he's played them, 27 points a game, also 5 assists per game. The field goal percentage is what I keep coming back to. 66% from the field. And this is because of where he shoots from and where the Kings are weakest. Like, love you, Domas. One of my favorite players in the last 10 years for sure is Domas Sabonis. How much fun is a strong passing center who can, really help control an offense? Just so bad at the rim, man. Just awful, awful rim defender. And like, kudos to the Kings. They're like, look, we know that he's our center, and that means that we're going to give up points at the rim. So we're just going to try to outscore you. So at least they have a game plan to back up, Domas's bad defense around the rim. But he is the reason more than anything that they have the 4th worst defensive field goal percentage around the rim. Everything you want inside of really 10 feet, even 5 feet, but even 10 feet. Once you get inside of 10 feet, you can get whatever you want against this team. Team shooting above 69%. Nice in those situations. Zion is averaging the most field goal attempts per game inside of 5 feet. Does that surprise anybody? There was this let's see if Zion can shoot threes thing going on. And then everyone was like, why are we doing this? Let's just go ahead and get him 16 field goal attempts per game inside of 5 feet. I mean, a couple of those are second chance points, which kudos to Sac again. Their defense, as bad as it's been defending the paint, does rebound very well. All the other positions, including Domas, an amazing rebounder, as we know, one of the best in the league. All the other positions as well. Even Harrison Barnes, good rebounder for an undersized power forward. De'Aaron Fox, very good rebounding guard. We know all that stuff. Problem is like this is Zion. It's a different beast. So when he goes up and gets those offensive rebounds as he's want to do, then he's already right around the rim in a spot that he's going to just have an advantage the entire time that he's playing against Domas. And like I said, Harrison Barnes trying to cover him for the majority of this last game. Even the one that they were in for most of the game, in terms of the Kings only losing by 5 or 6 in that first game against the Pellies. Even there, it was like Zion just owning Harrison Barnes. If you look at the matchup, he had an individual offensive rating of 128.5 in the 6.5 minutes that Harrison Barnes was the primary defender. All that stuff really available on NBA.com advanced stats. Get into those box scores because I'd love to see who guards people, and HB ain't it for Zion. And really, the dude who played the second most amount of minutes on him wasn't even Domas. It was Davion Mitchell, where they tried to do the sort of let's put a guard on him when he's got the ball out by the extended foul line, and then we'll see if he. But it's like there's nobody to meet him at the rim, so putting a guard on him before he gets to the rim isn't going to matter. It's just going to be like he's going to have like a little gnat hanging on him the whole time anyway. So Zion to get the 25 points, I do really like this bet, even though it feels chalky. It's a good one tonight.
It feels it, but I mean, after 2 somewhat quiet games, right, where they clearly were just not that worried about beating the Spurs at home, and they actually dropped one in Chicago looking ahead to this in-season tournament. So now you expect the full effort from Zion, who was, on a tear of 6 straight before that back-to-back set. 6 straight, 25 points, and that's why we're targeting it. I mean, there is no matchup for the Kings. And yeah, you mentioned him getting it from the elbow and trying to create. Well, now he actually has a creator in CJ back, which he didn't in those first 2 matchups against the Kings. So I think that kind of, those 2 guys having success is kind of correlated. Maybe you get some assists in there for them because unlike the Pacers, the Kings do give up plenty of assists. So I have no problem adding the 4 or 5 assists for either of these guys.
Yeah, I thought about it. I mean, it's interesting that CJ's return hasn't totally crushed Zion's ability to get dimes. But either way, I appreciate your vote of confidence in my bet. Always need friends to help lift you up. And that is all the time that we have for you in our play of props for today's quarterfinals, first round of this knockout stage for the NBA in-season tournament. I'm super pumped. I know you're super pumped, Nate. So we're going to keep going on with these. Continue to follow along. We'll be back with tomorrow's slate and the rest of the week. And until we see you next, happy betting.